I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. Um, and uh, and I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election. And I mean that's I'm just stating my opinion. Now you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission, like saying, to not have disinformation on the like during this discussion that we're having, and there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries, and what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. We have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. If you add up the European nations that in terms of an economy, it's about the same size. When you say as us, and they're in,
Yeah,
and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. It used to be for the
yeah,
Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is they're in for 70 something million. I think even less than that, billion, and we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But
yeah,
they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States
yeah,
was the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I went
yeah,
in and I said, you
yeah,
got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in, and
yeah. I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses,
and then we get
even though
taken advantage of on trade. So think
yeah,
about it.
well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make
Defending
sense. That's
Europe
Great
unfair,
from
question.
a country
and
that no
that is
longer
an
exists.
appropriate thing to address.
Well,
Um,
when you talk about
so
cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are
yeah, yeah,
lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russias and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
yeah,
Now, they've taken advantage
yeah,
of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to uh, inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it. Like we're having a great conversation right now, Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not
No.
smart. You know, she's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, "Where am I? Where am I going?" So anyway, but
Yeah,
no, he wouldn't have this.
that's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but you know, we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that you know, we can have a conversation, and
Yes, you can
I'm
actually
able
have a
to get it
conversation.
out without because I get treated unfairly
This
by
is
the
a really
press.
big point. You can actually have a conversation with you,
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
and you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like not. It's not possible.
That's true.
Um,
It's
The only day we could do that would have
this
been
is like talking to
Obama.
an NPC.
Obama
no.
So
on
it's
his
just
show.
Well,
impossible.
but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. You know, I got along with Kim Jong Un. We had dinner. We had everything, and he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. You know, a lot of people said, "Oh, do you think he really?"
That's for
Let me
sure.
tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But you know, we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid
Do
man.
you
Well,
think Elon
at least
came
he
in with
speaks
a
his
set of
mind.
questions he was planning
But you
on
know, in this
asking,
country, you're not
or do
sort
you
of
think
allowed
he's
to
going
say
off the
it, but I
cuff?
I
guess you
imagine he
are.
had
You
like
should be
red
allowed to say
cards,
it
Yeah.
if
but
it's
he's
true.
also kind of
But
off the cuff.
we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now, you know
Yeah.
Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is the whole concept
Yeah.
is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I
It
saw a
would.
It seems like
picture of
Elon's
her
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
on
guiding
Time Magazine
I
today.
in a
think
certain direction.
She
Trump
looks like the
started in
most
interview
beautiful
mode,
actress
but
ever to
now
live.
he's in I'm on a
It was
phone
a
call mode.
drawing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's just talking
And
to a buddy right now.
actually,
Yeah.
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She looked, she looked, didn't look,
Yeah.
she didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a
Hello,
beautiful
Milla.
woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah, well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel
Trump needs a call to
excited
action
and
for
inspired
donations.
about the future. They want to feel like the
It's
future is
true.
going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach
Right.
new heights that make you proud to be an American, and excited about the future.
They want the
And I
American
think
dream
this,
back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. You know, the Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent, and when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was
yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We
right.
could build high speed
Yep.
connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. Um, that it's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
That's right.
We already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw
And
what you did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
yeah,
You
and
don't even need much
No
structure.
one wants to ride
Assuming
public
you're in the right
transportation
area.
because of
no,
the
it's
crime.
it's
Yeah.
It's
straightforward.
amazing.
So
A
and
lisp
like
is when
I
you
think we could do
sa
some
instead of
things
sa.
that
A
like China's got
slush is
incredible
when you have a
high speed rail
sh
between
when you
its
talk.
cities, but I think
People
it's
keep
actually
saying lisp. It's not
possible
what it is.
with tunnels if with deregulation with an ability to actually where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high speed transport between cities, and that would be something that Americans can say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the
Yeah.
world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
And
American.
much safer than surface trains where there is a danger there, with people, with crazy
Yeah,
people. It's much safer, much better. And, it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating. And I've seen the systems and how they work and the bullet trains, they call them, I guess. And they,
yeah,
they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like there's I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that like I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA for
Yeah.
improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's
Yeah.
lives. And
I worked very hard on that. We got that down
yeah,
to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But
That was great.
I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4.
What do you think on a scale of 1 to 10?
And I got some things done very quickly, but it's really
8.5.
something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it would be.
it just takes too long, and it's you
give
end
him
up
a
in the
7.
same with the approval, but it's just
Because people are mad.
Takes years instead of
Some people are like, yeah, I agree. Other people are like, what? Only a 7? I'm like, 7 is
that
good.
improves people's
It's
lives.
just
And I
not
think-
like
It's nothing groundbreaking, but
right.
it's nice to hear him. And
I just wanted to
have
hop on this
people
point
talk about
that
policy
there
ahead of
has
the
to be an
election instead of
active
just, like, being like,
process.
they're weird.
For
I don't like that.
It's like a beat.
reducing
He sounds
rules
more
and
like his
regulations, because
2016
otherwise
self.
they just keep building up
Not really
every year, and you
influenced
get
by
like
Biden's
hardening of the
just saying,
arteries,
speaking
and
from the
eventually
gut.
everything's
That's why he
illegal
does his best.
or takes forever.
And it
And
can only
then
be so
and then
impressive
we
over
just
like a
we
podcast
just
phone type
ossify as a
scenario.
society.
Yeah.
We just
I can't imagine what a 10 would look
we
like.
can't make any progress, and that's it's a really big
Well,
deal.
Elon, just
So-
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try.
Yep.
This is where you can go in and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. But people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
Yeah.
where you can,
Yeah.
you basically, look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability. The country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list. If somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
Yeah.
Okay. And as you know, we got it
Yeah.
done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for
The worst part is the
58
slush.
years, and it sounds simple, but it
Yeah,
wasn't.
I'm pretty
because,
confident it's a DS.
I mean, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it,
positive.
but we got it done.
Sure.
Somebody signs, you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done, and we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to Try. Hopefully you never need it, but if you
Yeah.
do, you don't have to travel to Asia. People,
Right.
if they had money,
that's
they go
great.
to Asia,
Yeah,
they
sure.
go to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and die.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.